Hello loving good earth scientist, and welcome to our video on the water cycle. Now, as you know, around 75% of the earth's surface is covered with water. We briefly talked about some of the uses for water, from crops and farming to drinking to food, for instance fish needing to live in water, hydroelectricity, and industries use water. Now, water can be either a liquid, a gas, or a solid. Now take a look at these pictures, and I'm going to pause for a moment and let you have time to see if you can figure out which ones are solid, liquids, and gases. Let's see how you did. So of course this iceberg here would be considered a solid, and then the water around it would be considered a liquid. This little icicle, solid, and these ice cubes, solid. The water around it, liquid, and this water bottle, liquid. Gas, the steam coming off, and the steam coming off here. Now, the reason that water changes is because it gains energy, which moves it from a solid to a liquid. And if it gains more energy, it goes from a liquid to a gas. And the reason that it changes from a gas to a liquid is because it loses energy, and from a liquid to a solid because it also loses more energy. That has to do with heating up the atoms and the molecules. Water on Earth moves through the water cycle. Now here's kind of a look at the water cycle. All water, bodies of water like ocean, rivers, lakes, streams, ponds, even puddles, is where we can say this kind of starts. And they become heated by the sun. That's the main force that drives the water cycle. When they become heated, they gain energy, and they turn from being a liquid to being a vapor, okay? And that vapor we call water vapor, and that's a gas. And that process is called evaporation. And just think about that word vapor, water vapor, okay, going from a liquid to a gas. Now, then what could happen is when the water gets further up into the atmosphere, it will start to cool. When it cools, it loses energy. And we call this process condensation, which actually takes that gas and turns it back into being a liquid. Okay? When you see dew on the ground in the morning, that's condensation, where the water vapor in the air cooled overnight and became droplets of water. When you touch a glass and you feel the water on the edge of the glass, that glass isn't magic and the water seeped through it. What happens is the water vapor that was in the air, the gas, slammed into that cup. The cup was cold. It caused the water vapor to lose energy, and it goes from being a gas to being a liquid, thus condensation. Now also in the water cycle on the earth, condensation, I want you to think of the 3 C's. Condensation cools and creates clouds. Well, when those clouds fill up, they eventually fall. The water will fall. And we call that precipitation. And that can be snow, sleet, hail, or rain. When the precipitation hits the ground, it can run off, okay, down the hill, down a mountain, down my driveway, down the street, and back into a body of water. A river, a lake, a stream, a pond. Or that water can be infiltrated. Think of that word in, is when the water goes into the soil. Okay? Another word for that, a synonym, is to percolate. So it can infiltrate or it can percolate, go into the ground, and at that point it becomes groundwater. And over time that groundwater can also then flow back into a body of water, and your cycle can start again. Now let's take a look at evaporation. As I said before, the sun heats the water, causes it to gain energy, and it turns it into a gas. We call this evaporation. That gas is called water vapor, and it is in the air right now. Now, a lot of times if you ever listen to the news or a meteorologist, they talk about humidity. Well, the humidity is a measurement of the amount of water vapor that is in the air. Condensation happens when water vapor cools. It loses its energy and it forms water drops. Okay? These water vapor condenses and it forms clouds. So if you look at our picture, our puddles are going away because they've evaporated, they've turned into a gas, they've turned into water vapor. But then when they get up in the air, it cools, turns back into a liquid. So we say it condenses and it makes a cloud. Now, once those clouds form, that liquid water or solid water, whatever, gets filled up and eventually it falls. We call this falling water precipitation. There's 4 types of precipitation. So take a second, see if you can figure out which is which in our picture. Okay, now the easiest one is rain. So this one right here would be considered rain. Okay? And then we have snow. There's our little snowflakes falling. Okay? If we combine rain and snow, we get sleet. And if we have large kind of crystals of ice, chunks of ice, we call that hail. Okay, and here's a little bit further look at precipitation. Okay, so which of these forms of precipitation forms when water vapor turns directly into ice without ever passing through the water state? It happens as water condenses around an ice crystal. So I want you to see which word, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, and which picture goes with the water vapor turning directly into ice. Okay? And if you said snow, you are correct. Very good. Okay? All right, let's look at the second one. Drops of liquid water fall all the way to the surface of the earth. What would that be? Yay, that would be rain. Okay? Now, if we have a mixture of that snow and rain, as well as raindrops that are freezing on their way down, okay, and the raindrops pass from a liquid before becoming, a solid, that would be sleet. Okay? A mixture of rain and snow. And then finally, we have hail, which forms in a complex dance between moisture and wind. In a cumulonimbus cloud, ice crystals form and they start to fall. But as this happens, wind takes the ice crystals and pushes them back up higher into the cloud. They begin to fall again, and the ice or wind pushes them back up into the cloud. And so they keep freezing and freezing and freezing, and they become larger and larger and larger. So that's why we can have different sized pieces of hail, from little bitty to even golf ball and softball sized hail. Okay, if you will, you should have this picture on the worksheet. Okay, in a moment I'm going to give you a word bank. In all of these boxes, there's a specific term that goes with the water cycle, and so you'll fill those in to the boxes. But with those terms, there are things that have to happen. There's conditions in the atmosphere. Energy has to be lost, or energy has to be gained, has to be heated, it has to be cooled. You can definitely use answers more than once. Okay? So, let's take a look at our word bank. Okay? So this is our word bank. All of these red boxes would be terms that would go into the box, and then the blue would describe kind of what's happening. You can use words more than once. So at this time, we're going to pause the video and give you, 5-10 minutes to work and see if you can come up with the answers. I recommend using pencil In case you're wrong, you can correct your answer. So we'll pause it right now. And welcome back, and hopefully you have filled out your water cycle diagram, and now we're going to check to see how you did. If you got something wrong, you need to erase it and you need to fix it. Okay? So let's start. We've got a body of water here. We have the sun. So what happened is the water has evaporated. Okay? When water evaporates, it warms up. It warms up. It gains energy. Okay? And then ultimately, it becomes water vapor. So we would have all of that going with our evaporation. Now, that water vapor then goes higher up into the sky, and it condenses. That happens because when it gets higher up in the sky, it cools down, it loses energy, and it turns into a liquid. Okay? Now we want to think about the 3 C's. Condensation cools. So now I have a cloud. Okay? Now let's go over here to our trees. And we've got these trees. Trees start with a T. Okay? And these trees are TTing. Okay? They're PP-ing. Not really, but if that helps you remember. Okay? They're transpiring. Transpiration starts with a T. The trees are transpiring. They're PP-ing. Okay? They're giving off water vapor. And they give off that water vapor because they've gained energy, because they've been heated. They've been warmed up. Okay? So we call that transpiration. Now, evapotranspiration would be if that's happening with anything on the ground, not just trees, but ground cover. Okay. And so, then way up in the sky, that water vapor is going to condense. It's going to lose energy. It's going to cool down. And we're going to get a liquid. Our liquid over there. Okay? And with the 3 C's, we know we get another cloud. The cloud gets full. It precipitates. And in this picture, it's showing us rain. When that precipitation or rain hits the ground, we call that runoff. And you notice that it runs right back into our body of water. Okay? And it happens again and again and again because of the sun. Okay? And I guess I have an extra gaining energy, so we'll just delete that. Okay? So take a moment, make sure your water cycle is filled out. We can pause the video until everybody's done. Okay? Welcome back. Let's take a look at some vocabulary. I want you to think about these answers in your head, and then we'll put them on the screen. So, water running off land and flowing into lakes, rivers, streams, oceans is called runoff. The sun can turn water into a gas through evaporation. The seepage of water into the ground is known as groundwater. Blank happens when the gas cools to form water drops. Condensation. These drops may fall from clouds as, okay, if they're falling, precipitating. The passage of water from a plant into the atmosphere is known as, okay, there's our TTing trees, transpiration. And some water is stored inside the earth as, I messed up. This one right here should be groundwater. The seeping in should be infiltration. See, did you catch that? I was seeing if y'all got it. We're paying attention. So let's take a little quiz. Which of the following would be an example of groundwater? Just on the top of your diagram, you've got a little bit of white space. Just kind of number across 1 to 10 and put down what you think the answer would be to number 1. Okay, the answer should be cave. Cave would be an example of groundwater. And number 2, what is water that infiltrates and collects in underground spaces called? You should have said D, groundwater. Number 3, what kind of water is found in the air? C, water vapor. Number 4, what process occurs when water changes to gas? B, evaporation. 5, my front yard always has water flowing down the hill after it rains. This is an example of blank and causes erosion of soil. Okay, D, runoff. 6, blank happens when water vapor cools to form water drops. C, condensation. 7, rain, snow, sleet, and hail are all forms of D, precipitation. 8, evaporation is to oceans as transpiration is to B, trees. 9, on a humid day in Georgia, what is happening? A, water is being heated and evaporated into the atmosphere. And 10, what is happening in the atmosphere to cause precipitation to fall as rain and later as snow? D, cooling. Great job. Now I want you to go ahead and turn your diagram over. Spend the rest of the class period working on the water cycle closed notes. You may not work together. You may not talk. You are welcome to use the notes on the other side of this paper to help you. Good luck, and I'll see you when I get back.